All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the February 12th, 2019 Traffic Committee meeting. It is 3 o'clock, or the clock over there. So we'll start with introductions of the committee members. I'm going to start with Miguel.
Miguel Hernandez with the Community Development Engineering section.
I'm Manuccio Adami, Traffic Engineer.
And Monica Heredia, the Assistant City Engineer.
Brian Daniels, West Covina Police Department, Traffic Sergeant.
Eddie Gomez, West Covina PD, Traffic Investigator.
So thank you for being here today and for signing in. So we have a sign-in sheet. Just want to remind you that we are live on TV. So there was a notice in the door over there that we are live. So I want to make you aware of that. And we can continue with the agenda. You have a copy of that, and we'll start with the item number 2, which is approval of the December 11 Traffic Committee meeting. And if anyone can take, if you can take about a minute or two to go over that, and if there are no comments, we can make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve, and you want a motion, or do they do roll call? Second motion? All right. The minutes are approved, are officially approved for the December 11, 2018 meeting. We'll move on to item number 3, which is matters from the audience. We have a couple of members of residents here. Who would like to start, or do you have any comments you want to address to the committee right now?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. Then let's move on to item number 4.
I think
Oh,
Peter
sorry.
Hatfield wanted to speak.
Sorry.
Is this where I bring this up? What we talked about?
Yeah, so if you have any issues that you want to bring to our attention,
Right.
Unless it's
Okay.
one of the items that we're going to discuss under old business or new business, we can discuss it at
Oh,
that
okay,
time.
that's fine.
Is that-
That's fine.
About the speeding on Michelle and California, we've had a lot of problems, issues with that. I live right in the corner, and I always see cars speeding, really, really bad. And it's been getting worse.
Yes, and then that is the reason that it's in our agenda for today. And when we get there, I'm going to have Nusher give a report on that.
Ma'am, what hours?
This is during school hours, and the evenings. I just recently, about 2-3 weeks ago, I saw 2 cars speeding, really, they were racing down California. And they were going the same way. It was really bad. So it's been getting worse.
So when we discuss that item, Nusher will explain as to what he's proposing as far as a solution to that problem.
Okay.
And then once he discusses that, if you have any questions, we can try to answer those. Okay, so old business, we have 3 items. I'm going to have Miguel give an update on those.
The first item, A, permanent parking at Woodyard Street and California Avenue to the end of the block was approved in the previous meeting on December 11th. Signs have been ordered, permits have been issued to the residents. Then the preferential parking, which is item B for California and Francisquito to Dale Haven, is still being processed. We had to issue the survey again because we didn't receive sufficient responses. So we're giving them a second try. And then the crosswalk improvements at Gemini and Shadow Drive are going to begin construction on Monday. So it should be done within a week and a half.
On the road yard, is that enforceable now?
Not yet, signs haven't been put up yet.
Okay.
Do we have an estimated time when that'll be?
Yes, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for the updates. And now I'm going to turn it over to Manusher, our traffic engineer, to discuss the two items under new business. The first one is the issue on Michelle Street from Glendora Avenue to California Avenue.
I have spent some time with Michelle, and I looked at it. It does have the potential for speeding, and just kind of citywide problem everywhere, almost the same. And the best for now we can do before we install any kind of hardcore restriction. Hardcore restriction, what I meant is like restricting left turn or right turn. That would make it difficult for residents too. And as far as putting humps and bumps, which nowadays everybody talk about, the blocks are too short to do that. Okay, by itself it become hazard, So having said that, and you just mentioned earlier that you saw two cars going like this, correct? And one of the reasons is because we don't have a good double yellow center line on that street that would eliminate the width in one direction, so the two cars cannot be side by side unless they're driving on the left side. And having said that, we're going to put a line, a kind of narrow line, about 4 inches wide, on both sides of the street, which define your parking area. So everybody park in that area. Then we put the center line, double yellow center line. With that, the width of the street would be restricted. Is not as wide as you see it today. And we are hoping that would do the job before we think of something completely difficult that would make it difficult for residents also. And normally this would, no solution is 100% solution unless we have help from the police department, and I'm sure they'll be there, occasionally to check it out. And with that, you're hoping that your problem will be solved.
Yeah.
I'm a longtime resident in the area. I'm also in law enforcement. I work for LAPD. And I know these guys are busy. I've called multiple times, evening and mornings. There's a school down the street. And my concern is that one of these days, those children crossing the street on Michelle are going to get hit. It's going to be a liability for the city. Even have a neighbor that puts a sign out there with a red flag to slow cars down. And we've proposed speed bumps only because it's going to force people to slow down. It's not going to cause a hazard if they slow down. They know there's speed bumps there, but a line isn't going to slow people down. It's the only main thoroughfare between Glendora and California. All the other streets are closed up. So people speed through there like it's a main highway. Like I said, I've been there many years. Dave couldn't make it here today. He's another fellow law enforcement detective. He's got all the figures of all the cars that have been sideswiped down Michelle Street. Because I've had residents come to me and tell me they've chased vehicles, caught up to the actual suspect, and it was a young kid just racing down the street about 50, 60 miles an hour. So there's been multiple incidents. I don't have all the facts, but he couldn't make it today, but he does have a lot of these incidents that have occurred over the years.
It's been going on for years. This is not new. I've actually spoken to you maybe 10 years ago. We signed a petition. We wanted speed bumps. Everybody wanted speed bumps, and
I don't think you spoke to me.
Yeah.
No, the gentleman.
Miguel.
The gentleman.
Oh,
Yeah, yes. So, and I have cars that have been crashed into, totaled, heaven forbid, we've lost animals. So it's not getting better, it's getting worse.
And there is a school on California, which is
Yes.
a big concern, in the mornings and in the afternoons.
Right.
Heavy traffic time.
Yeah, I don't mean to, find out where exactly you live, but there was the request that they came to me. I checked that resident. Are you by any chance resident of
He's
that?
my neighbor. He's
I'm
our
the corner
neighbor.
of Sandy Hook and Michelle. I'm right
So
on
when
the
you come in, yeah, okay, you're on the south side of the street, correct?
north side. I'm at 1407, which is the corner of Sandy Hook and Michelle. the big pine tree there. And that street kind of curves around, which makes it a little more dangerous because they come speeding down that S-turn and they can't
Yeah.
see.
See, you have that curvature right there, which in every book that you look at, it is not a good recipe for the speed bump, that curve. You know, I mean, you can't have a speed bump in a curvature area. That's,
Well, if they're
How
slowed down
about-
the way they're supposed to, it would work effective, wouldn't it?
I know, but the speeder would end up in your house.
I'm surprised
With
they haven't
somebody
yet.
doing, yes, because then they lose control when they go over the bump in angle. Okay?
Well, then move the speed bump over on the
And
other,
then the
you know.
blocks are short. I looked at the blocks, they're short. Now, in our experience, anything that is less than 200 feet in distance, you know, on either side, the speed bumps by itself become another tool of, you know, being hazardous or creating hazardous condition. It is not what I mean, the speed bump generally is good that you have a minimum 400 feet block, that you can put them right in the middle. They're very effective. Anything less than that, it'll become unsafe. So, especially for those that they make a fast turn from those minor street and they reach the bump in very short distance, in very short period of time, and then they lose control. 100 feet is not enough when you're coming from the minor street, making a fast turn, and all of a sudden there's a bump in front of you. By the time you try to control your vehicle, you may end up hitting a car on the side or somebody's on the
There's stop
sidewalk.
signs coming from the side streets. They wouldn't just run
Right,
into the speed bumps.
there's the stop sign.
Which Sandy Hook has a stop sign, St. Malo has a stop sign.
Right.
So you're saying that they're gonna turn onto a speed bump?
Mhm.
They're
And
gonna-
by itself, when you have less than 200 feet, speed bumps are not very effective. This has been in studies everywhere that, they looked at and say, it has to be good 400 feet that you can put one in the middle or longer. And then you put, one bump is not gonna do the work. You have to have series of bumps and they all have to be in a short distance. I think the best is to, let me go back again. What makes those folks use your street? Are these unwanted traffic that they're using your street as a bypass to get somewhere?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Surrounding streets are blocked off, they're dead
and
ends.
is this happening during rush period? More often than, like it is like, or 10 o'clock in the morning? Is not. You don't have that problem 10 o'clock in the morning. do you?
Morning, noon, at night.
Morning, weekends,
Yes.
You have a morning during rush period, peak period, and you have an afternoon like 3 to 6 or 3 to 5. That should be the time. So they're using really your street as a bypass, and if you think that the bump is going to stop them, it's not going to.
well, I've worked the Hollywood division and speed bumps are effective there. People, once they know they're there, they.
We're in Hollywood.
Hollywood division in city of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. I work for City of LA.
I worked for there 20
I was
years.
the one, who was doing all of that, wrote the guideline for their humps and all of that. If you notice in the City of LA, again, they don't put in anything less than 400 feet. Why?
So I think this is our measure that we want to implement to address some of the, part of the problem, and we can always come back and revisit. So we'll do the installation of the striping, and maybe within 6 months, we'll reevaluate it and see whether that's helped or not. We had a similar situation on Lark Ellen and Workman, where there is the curvature, and they were using those streets, with Workman and, I forget the intersection. But they were using those streets parallel to Caltrans, right? When the off-ramps were closed, everyone was using those two streets, and it curves. That's exactly what we did, and it was pretty effective. We have not heard any more complaints about speeding or crashes, things like that. So we think this will help the situation, and then again, we can revisit it in about 6 months.
The police department, I received, I believe, a phone call. I think I spoke to Dave on the phone in length, and we've had some of our traffic officers go out there and do some enforcement. And then, so we'll continue the enforcement on Michelle and California area all the way to Glendora. And then if there are cars that are parallel on the wrong side of the road and speeding, those are some of the things that we can address as well. And then that'll increase some of the violations if they're going over the double yellow lines, passing cars, things like that.
Also, would you folks be willing to have a sign? Because, the bump, as I'm saying, it is really, is not going to do the job for you to eliminate unwanted traffic. And that's, I think, what the major problem is. Would the neighborhood be willing to accept a sign, let's say from Glendora, I don't know which direction they come and go, we can restrict those movement. That means if they're coming down on Glendora and make a right turn during rush period, we can put a no right turn from 7 to 9 a.m. I mean, that should eliminate your problem completely. But then it would also be, the difficulty, it would be for the resident as well, because you have to abide by that sign too.
It would be like the intersection at Lark Hill and Cameron over by the high school. So during the pickup and drop off hours for the high school, there's no right turn. So what that allows the police department to do is it allows us to do traffic enforcement on a failure to obey a posted sign, which would alleviate some of the traffic that's coming and going. Even if they're not speeding, it gives us the authority to make a traffic stop, issue a citation, and there is a learning curve for people that are making the right turn onto your street, and then gives us the authority to issue a citation. But what he's saying is then obviously you would not be able to make that right turn into your residential neighborhood as well. You would have to take an alternate route. So that would be something that obviously you guys would have to agree with.
I did that in the city of Pasadena, if you're familiar with. There's a street called Michelinda. And north of Foothill, I live in that area too, by the way, that's what I did. And residents were complaining, and I was a commissioner there, and we kind of huddled together and we came up with that solution. And there is the 1 hour restriction. It's just from like 7 to 8, because most of them were high school kids going to the high school nearby, and they were the one that they're using the street as a shortcut. So we put that in, we got a little bit of enforcement combined with those signs. And yes, it is a little bit difficult for the folks living there, but it's now everybody's happy because they don't have the problem that started the whole thing. So I mean, you have to, you and the rest of the residents should think about it if that's the type of measure you want us to go ahead and apply. We'll be happy to do it.
I don't think that lines are going to approve anything.
Right.
The traffic comes both ways, from
Yes,
California
yes,
and
that's
Glendora.
Both sides.
And then the school's on California, so they're raced through there to get to
Yes.
Michelle. So
Yeah.
my concern, like I said, is the liability if a child gets struck, which I'm
I'm
surprised
surprised,
hasn't happened
yes.
yet. But that's, the citizens are having to
Yes.
deal with it, but also,
Getting in my car in the morning, it's so hard. It's like, right?
You have an unwanted traffic problem.
yeah, it's a main thoroughfare.
Rather than
Yeah.
the speeding. I mean, speeding is given, but
Oh, they're speeding. There's
really
a
the
lot of
unwanted
speeding.
traffic is that's the one you don't want in there. Those are the ones that are speeding on top of it.
Yeah, it's a shortcut between
Mhm.
California and Glendora. Is what it is.
So the right turns will work.
Hmm?
The right turns will
Yeah, right turn restriction from California or left turn restriction from whichever way that the folks are using,
Yeah, but
They're
they're
using
saying it's
both
both
directions,
directions.
North, south,
Yes.
Yeah.
north, south, they're coming both ways. And then making a left from Glendora onto Michelle. And a right. So I was having traffic on
Right.
Glendora and Michelle all the time. We've seen multiple accidents at that intersection. There's no light. People try to race through that intersection too and make a left onto northbound Glendora.
We can restrict their favorite turn, let's put it this way. Coming to Michelle from either end. Okay? we can restrict that, even for 1 hour a day in the morning or 1 hour in the afternoon, which is the peak. That is more effective than having the speed bumps. Sometimes the speed bumps, the kid, they take off faster. They like to jump over it. Bicyclists, they love to
Why don't they have
jump.
them in other areas? They have them in San Marino, they have them in Arcadia, they have them in South Pasadena. They're working there.
And like I said, I worked in Hollywood, and I never saw
Yes.
an accident where somebody went airborne on a speed bump.
Altadena, my mother-in-law lives in Altadena, the hills, and they have speed bumps there, and I think they're great.
Yeah,
We're not gonna.
look like you know the area. If you look at the Green Hill in Pasadena, you notice that we did put in bumps, but the long block is like, 900 feet without any interruption.
That's a pretty long block though, Michelle.
Yeah, very long.
Glendora and
And it's very effective. It was effective at slowing people down a little bit, but it did not get rid of the traffic. So unwanted traffic is still
How
there.
long is very long?
yeah, we're worried about the speed, not so much, the traffic's always been there, but people are increasingly just speeding through there, and that's the problem.
We
But
don't
let's
want
take
that
it step by
to
step.
happen.
Let's take it step by step. That's
Okay.
my recommendation.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve the road diet proposal? That's what it's called, the edge line and also the double yellow center line. Anybody
Have a
want to
motion.
motion that? Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, it's approved. So we'll move forward once we take this to city council. It will be the minutes from, actually from the December 11th meeting will be approved at the March 5th city council meeting. So the meeting for today will be approved at the March 19th city council meeting.
I
Okay,
have one more item.
yes. Item B.
Yeah, there is a brand new traffic signal is to be installed on La Puente at Forecastle Avenue. And this is the shared jurisdiction. Half of the street belong to the city of Walnut and half is West Covina. And we thought that's a good idea, and we went ahead and approved the installation. Of course, it's pending the committee approval and the council. I think it's a good idea because the folks over there also having a speeding problem on La Puente. So this traffic signal at least would break that, the whole concept of going for a long distance and adding to your speed. Traffic hopefully would stop, would be effective. But again, the city of Walnut, I had a meeting today, and they're going for the diet, for the narrow lane and all of that to slow down the traffic. Obviously, in a big street, you can't put bumps and humps and all of that. So it's part of the thing that we did. Anyway, need an approval on that.
Okay, so do I have a motion to move
Motion.
forward with the new traffic signal at the intersection of Forecastle Avenue and La Puente Road?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. We've been doing a lot of traffic enforcement for the last 4 to 6 weeks on this particular intersection. I've been keeping some statistics on our traffic enforcement, and I think, because obviously you have Nogales, then you have Centus, and then one at Fort Cal, so I think would help break up those the high speed. We're getting people 74 miles an hour, definitely in the 70s flying through there, so I think that will at least help alleviate some of the traffic in that particular
Yeah.
area.
In that section, there is a speed study for the city of Walnut. They include that portion into their speed study. It is the highest in our portion of the La Puente than anywhere else within, so, yeah.
So hopefully that'll help with that.
Right. Okay.
Do we
Well,
have an estimated date when you think that'll be installed, if it's approved, like once it goes through council?
If we approve it, then they're going to be designing it. that, I don't know who's designing it. It shouldn't
it would
take
be
long
the
to
city.
design it, and comes in for our review and,
2-3 months?
Well, no.
no,
Longer
to
than-
be installed,
Yes.
no.
We're talking about-
No, it takes 4 months to just buy equipment
Okay.
because of a recent tariff problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to add this to our CIP.
Right, and it needs to be added as part of our budget process. So it is one that we will include for programming.
Okay.
So,
If you see it next year this time, that means they move fast.
Okay.
My best
yeah, so
estimate.
it's not going to be anytime
Yeah.
Okay.
soon, but it will definitely be on the list. Okay, moving on to item 6 or
New business over
I
here.
have some new
Oh, I'm
business.
sorry, you're right. I was like,
So I'd like
You
to
spoke
talk,
on the phone, right?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to talk about what I perceive to be a public safety issue caused by the offloading of vehicles by the transports on South Garvey between Azusa and Hollenbeck. Apparently, there was no provision made for them to offload vehicles on the premises. So I guess we are where we are now. But it's, the transports will take almost an entire lane when they stop to drop the cars off. Sometimes it's even more dangerous because they're parked, they take the curve up on by the Toyota and Honda dealership. So now you're on a curve, you can't see anything. This problem's been exacerbated by the fact that the eastbound lanes of the San Bernardino Freeway are closed. So this routes even more traffic through that corridor. You know, and you can't just sit behind a transport and wait for them to get done. And I know they have to do their job, but I think we have to somehow make some provision for a place for them to offload. And maybe what that is taking away some of the public parking next to the sound wall, painting the curbs yellow for unloading and loading of, you know, their vehicles. But this, you know, it's every day. It's not like it's once a week or something, and okay, maybe we can live with it. But yeah, every day that's a problem.
They do the drop off on the side, right, next to the curb?
Sometimes
Or in the
no.
middle?
In the middle.
Sometimes in the middle.
In the middle.
If they have a spot, they try to get over
Mhm.
on the southbound side of South Garvey. I don't know. I do have a question though. If you're proceeding from Azusa to Hollenbeck on South Garvey, when you almost get there, you've got Avis or Hertz or something, rent a car on one side. And then you've got like a holding parking area on the left-hand side. I don't know who owns that. But it seems like that would be a good spot for the transports to go in to drop their vehicles off because it gets them off the street. But again, I don't know who owns that property or anything like that.
Let me look at the area. Let me go and look at the area. As I said, I'm new in this town, so I don't know all corners and dealerships and all of that. But let me go to the area and look at it. And hopefully we can connect. I have your number. We can connect again, and we'll discuss it. And if anything, we would then bring it up on the next meeting, see if we can deal with it.
Like I said, I know the guys have to get the job done. I mean, you know, there's no place on the dealership premises, I guess, for them to use. So, but it does make it, I've seen some close calls with cars going one going the other. And I guess if you go around in the opposite lane, you're at fault, right? So it doesn't matter that the transport's in front of you.
You know, they do this on almost everywhere. It's universal problem. You probably know. Figueroa is the street in downtown Los Angeles where you have a Staples Center, LA Live, Coliseum, you name it, right? Everything is there. And yet, there are a bunch of dealerships there, and and there are different dealerships, and then you see a bunch of trucks going to the middle lane and park and start unloading and driving everybody crazy. Yes, there is a problem there. I guess they need maybe some kind of a, the eco code not to do it. I mean, they may be bigger than what you and I think could be resolved by painting the curb and solve the problem. But let me look at it.
Okay, taking a step back, it might be a good idea to require the dealership to provide a spot on their lot to offload the vehicles if you're
Yeah.
going all the way back. That would make more sense.
Of course.
But I understand the politics of it, so. Okay, that's fine.
Let me
Thank you.
look,
We'll-
let me, yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
we'll
you.
talk to the dealers and see if there's something we can do to address that situation as well. Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
that to our attention. All right, any comments from the committee members? Eddie, I'm going to start with you on that side.
You think a traffic trailer would help out there to slow them down?
It might initially, but there's so many people that go through there. I mean, you guys would have to be out there all the time. And I know I've called, Dave's probably called multiple times. You guys did a great job when you're out there, but it's just so constant. It's in the morning, evenings, and then on weekends, it's like a racetrack. And this cars just flying through there. And they come from La Puente, you know, Belinda, everywhere. They're just using that as a thoroughfare.
Yeah, unfortunately with the technology, with the Waze and Google Maps and stuff like that, it's going through a lot of people's neighborhoods, and it's probably one of the cut-through areas that it probably sends them through with GPS as
Yeah, because they don't
well.
want to wait for the street light at Francisquito, you know what I mean, or Merced. So, you know, there's no street lights. You just cut through there and fly through, get to Glendora and make your right turn or left turn.
Right.
So it's a constant problem, as you know. I mean,
You know, these problems are, it's like a balloon. You know, when you push the balloon or press the balloon, it pops out from the other side, you know. Therefore, we, hopefully in the future, we're gonna look at the neighborhood as a whole and see what kind of, you know, program we can implement to deal with all those issues that we were sitting.
if you look at it as a whole, you'll see that there's no other street that goes through.
Mhm.
They're all closed off, they're dead ends. So Michelle's the only.
It's
other
the
than-
only one.
Other than Merced and Francisquito that have lights and are majors, that's the only street that really cuts through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If you go back out there, you'll see.
Oh, I'm gonna visit the area again. I'll be on that street.
Thank you.
Did you consider closing off that median on Glendora? That would help, huh?
Oh, that would be great.
You would?
That'll eliminate the left turns in, left turns out.
That would be another solution, try it.
It works. If you restrict a turn, it's gonna end the problem.
It'll help.
Hmm?
It
Oh,
will help.
yeah, it just,
Why don't we look at that as well?
no, we
as
do.
you-
As I
as
said,
you
the
revisit
neighborhood,
that.
I don't want to put
Yeah.
one in there and then the
Yeah.
neighbor calls, say, hey, why did you, I gotta do it too. I have, you know, I have to go around and make a U-turn and all of that, so just wanna make sure we all in the same page.
Right.
Just blame you.
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. I
Sure.
know it's not in your control probably, but does anybody have any idea when that eastbound on-ramp is going to be opened again into this?
At Azusa you're talking about?
Uh-huh. As you're headed north? I know the one headed south is now open.
Yes, that one, they just recently
Do
opened
we
that
have
one.
any idea when this one's going to?
I don't. I have a number that you can call. I can give that to you after
Okay,
the
that's
meeting.
fine, sure.
And there's a new public information officer that you can contact to get that information.
Yeah, Caltrans is the one that's in charge of the opening and closing of
Right.
the freeways.
Okay, any other additional comments? Sure, Miguel?
I'm good.
Okay, then the meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you.